Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gitte Mary and today it's the one video a year where I talk about my tattoos. I didn't actually think I was gonna make the video for 2023, honestly, because I only got one. Spoiler alert. I am dying to tell you about the tattoo though, because it's one of the more meaningful ones that I have ever gotten. So I'm really excited to talk to you about it and show it to you guys. Kind of personal, but like will prevail. The reason why I haven't gotten more tattoos is so last autumn in September, I finally sold the house 2 years prior. 2 years. I bought a house with an ex-partner and we lived there for about a year. And then we broke up, sold the house, the market changed. I owed some money to the bank afterwards. That was a very expensive mistake, but alas, here we are. And like, we're gonna survive, it's fine. However, I didn't really feel like getting tattoos because it is kind of an unnecessary thing while I was in debt. And I still kind of am, but like it's very manageable and there is a plan, everything's fine, don't mind your girl. Feel so badly about spending the amount of money that good tattoos cost when I have other obligations. So that's sort of the main reason why I haven't gotten any more tattoos. Also, we're reaching a point, this is a secondary additional reason, but we're reaching a point soon where I don't really have a lot of room left on my legs, where I will have to figure out if I want to move on and do more, or if I'm just gonna call it quits and not get any more. I didn't get a tattoo for over a year actually, and honestly I thought I would be itching more to get out there and do more. I thought I would have like a ton of ideas in my head, just dying to get them done, and that hasn't actually been the case. Surprisingly, I love all of my tattoos to bits and I think they look just the way that I've always wanted, which is a funny statement considering that I never really planned ahead. But I love the way it looks. I'm just in love every single day, but I'm not really dying to get more done currently. So what I want to do now is I want to show you the tattoo and talk about it because but then I also asked you guys if you had any questions about my tattoos on Instagram, so we're gonna go through some of those and perhaps reminisce and talk about some of my previous works and just generally answer some questions. And also I think I did this, I did talk about zero waste, sustainability and tattoos, and I'll also go over that in this video. This was the longest intro I have ever done. So this was in autumn. I got the first tattoo in over a year, and this has been, for my family, it's been a rough year for many different reasons. My grandmother means the world to me and she has always been there for me, and she was moved into a nursing home last summer. That was a really rough decision. It's like a really rough sort of transitional period, etc. And I thought I wanted to honor her by getting a tattoo, sort of inspired by her. And when I say inspired by her, I just mean I put her maiden nickname on my leg. I did a heart with a banner on it, very inspired by old school tattooing. It says bitten, which has nothing to do with biting, but I do realize it works in English, so it doesn't look like just gibberish. But my grandmother's name is Birte, and she's always been called Bitten. The Danes, the Scandinavians, they know what I'm about. I remember every time you called her on her landline telephone, she would pick up the phone and say, "It's Bitten." It's her. So I wanted to do like an old school sailor tattoo with her name on it, and I was dying to show her. I was really scared because on one hand she could hate it. She's never really loved any of my tattoos, but she has been surprisingly gracious about all of them. I sometimes fear when I visit her that she forgets that I'm tattooed and then she sees it again and then she like becomes angry, but that's never happened. She seems fine. I showed it to her and she was just like, that's the same as my name. It's like, yeah, it's for you. And she was very happy and excited. She thought it was really fun and cool. I don't know if she realized it was permanent, but it didn't really matter to her. I think I love looking at it. It reminds me of her, and I'm so happy that I got it in a time where I could also show her. I don't have a lot of meaningful tattoos like that. I have a lot of bullshit. I have a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and just funny shit. Like I have a fusilli pasta. That was the only thing that I got this year. Now let's talk about zero waste, sustainability and tattoos. So inherently getting a tattoo can't really be done zero waste. If you have to live up to certain health standards. It can be compared to how any kind of medical procedure cannot be zero waste, because having a sterile environment requires disposable plastic. And while many medical procedures are necessary health-wise, getting a tattoo is not necessary in the same way, so I completely understand if many people choose to not get tattoos for any reason really, including environmental concerns or zero waste goals. However, for me, tattoos have played such a vital part in my self-expression and my self-understanding and my relationship with my body. It's sort of one of those things where I have just accepted that that's a place where I generate some type of waste. This hand is living its own life. I have so many other aspects of my life where I generate minimum to no waste, and I continuously tell myself that getting a tattoo, getting my nails done, does not negate all the other good shit that I try to do every single day. So I think it's important to hold yourself to some standard as a consumer, and especially someone who has goals in terms of sustainability and zero waste, low waste or whatnot. But I think it's very important that we direct our energy into productive ways of thinking and productive ways of exercising sustainability. So holding companies and billion-dollar corporations, the fossil fuel industry, the textile industry, our global food systems, animal agriculture, any kind of agriculture, holding those industries to high standards and consuming in a way that doesn't blindly benefit corporations and systems that only want to exploit people and the planet is just so much more productive than hitting yourself on the head because you produced a little bit of plastic from getting a tattoo that was meant to commemorate your grandmother. Can you just see what I mean here? Like, there are two different types of impact. There is like global big impact, and then there is consumer impact. And while those two can intertwine, because many of the things that we do, doesn't matter if one person does it, but one person never does it. It's a whole community or a society, a global society that does the same thing. I think it's very important to keep all of this in mind, but at the same time, I think it's also very important that you give yourself some slack, especially if you have high requirement standards and goals. This is a lot of words to simply just say, I realize that this is something that isn't zero waste, that I'm completely okay with that. One of the things that I've done in the past is that I've gotten many tattoos at the same time to avoid the amount of plastic just completely running wild. So instead of going to a tattoo parlor many times to get small things, I collect all the small things that I want, and then I go to the tattoo parlor and spend a whole day. That minimizes plastic considerably. I also think it's very important to mention that everyone has some sort of thing where they're giving themselves slack. And if you don't, you really should. Like, you really should. I would have burned out in a second or less if I didn't have any sort of space where I could just say, I know it's not ideal, but that's fine. We all have those things, and I think they're kind of vital to our continuous momentum and our continuous motivation in sustainability. That's sort of where we are. Okay, now I'm very excited to answer your questions from Instagram, so let's start with this one. Why specifically did I choose to tattoo my legs? Now, my legs aren't the only thing that's tattooed. I do have some small tiny hand tattoos both in and outside of my hands. I have realized later that a dot inside your hand can be sort of a call for help. So before anyone DMs me, which has happened before, asking me if I'm okay, I am. That's not what this means. This is a personal reference, and I have a whole video where I talk about that. I have on my hands, I have some on my sternum and my stomach, and then I have two tiny tattoos on both my arms. Those were the first tattoos that I got. We'll get back to those in a second. But the reason why I chose specifically my legs to sort of cover is because I've never really liked my legs. I always thought I had weird wide legs, bulky knees. My legs have also always been short, and overall I've just always felt a little stumpy. I have been petite for the majority of my life, but my legs have never really been super in proportion to my body, in my own weird, not quite mentally there way of thinking. I have always thought that they felt too big for the rest of my body, which isn't true. And one of the things that sort of helped me to appreciate that part of my body rather than hating it was decorating it in a way where whenever I looked at it, I would look at how amazing this is, rather than just seeing the part that I hated. Now, am I saying that it's always a good idea to completely cover yourself in tattoos if there's a part of yourself you don't like? No, that's not necessarily always the solution. And it wasn't the only thing that I did to change the perception of my body, but it was sure as hell one of the things that got me started thinking about my body differently. And now I just appreciate looking at my legs, and I never thought I would do that, which is sort of relevant in terms of why I chose the legs. There's also the fact that I can just wear trousers and look basically not tattooed at all. And I like that. Now I can't run completely from it. Now the tattoos on my hands are so small that they barely count in my opinion. But I can look basically not tattooed at all if I feel more comfortable in that regard. I have given lectures during the summer where I could just feel, and I knew because I could see it, that people were looking at my legs rather than listening to what I'm saying. And that happens for multiple reasons for women often. But this is just like an extra layer of drawing people's attention away from what you're saying. So I like that I'm able to camouflage a little bit as well. I think it's very practical to do the legs. And yeah, I think that's the main reason. I don't think I had all of these thoughts when I got my first leg tattoos, but it's sort of the reason why I kept going. Now, someone else asked about my very first tattoos, and the first tattoos I got was at a shitty tattoo parlor in the town I grew up in. And it's the Deathly Hallows from Harry Potter on one arm, and then it's a tiny cross on the other. I can tell you with absolute certainty that I don't look at any of my tattoos on a daily basis and go, oh no, oh I hate it. The type of regret where you're saddened every time you look at it. I don't experience that. I see those tattoos, many of the first tattoos that I got, where the quality isn't amazing and the motif isn't thought through. I see those as a witness to who I was at that time. Would I have chosen those tattoos today? Absolutely not. Would I have chosen that position for them? Absolutely not. It bothers me that I have those small things on my arms, but they are so tiny. And yes, I have thought about a couple of times getting those small things removed. It would take a couple of sessions and it would be fairly easy with the placement and how much ink is in there, etc. I don't know if something I will ever do. Yes, they did hurt. They did hurt very much. Some of them hurt more than others, and some of them were surprisingly easy. I've definitely gotten less tolerant with the pain over time, and I think the reason why that is because when you get your first tattoos, you have your adrenaline pumping, which sort of dulls the pain. It doesn't register as well with the brain because your dopamine, your adrenaline is just going at it because you're so excited. And over time, the more tattoos you get, the more normal it becomes, the less dopamine your brain is producing, the less adrenaline your brain is producing, which means the pain is not dulled in the same way. The first tattoos that I got, also the bigger ones, I could easily sit for like a whole day session, get all the stuff I wanted to get done, no problem. And now the last tattoo that I got, I was relieved when it was over, and it was 45 minutes, and I seriously considered leaving multiple times because of the pain. Something happened. I don't do it very well anymore. And yeah, that's embarrassing. But alas, that's what we do. Then someone asked me about ideas for 2024, and honestly, I don't have any currently. I might do some fillers here and there to sort of get the look more cohesive and tie a lot of the motifs together a bit more. But overall, I don't have a thing where I just know that I want to get done. It might show up, and I might get a stupid idea and go get it the next Tuesday, who knows. But as of right now, I don't actually have any ideas for things I want to get done. I also got a question about how to get back into tattoos after a long break, because other people are stuck, and like, I see you, bestie, I see you. I think the only way to go forward is to not push yourself into it, because then you end up getting tattoos just because you're getting tattoos, just because you want to get tattoos, and not because it's actually something you want to get. I don't think every tattoo should be super meaningful, and mine are definitely not. But I don't want to pressure myself personally to get into tattoos if I don't organically come up with something that I want to get done. I just accept that I don't have the same pacing as I had 2 years ago, and that's okay. Then I got several questions about how to choose a design, how to choose an artist, how to sort of lay everything out and decide on the motif, and whether or not I draw things myself, just piling a bunch of questions together here. So choosing a tattoo artist. I have gotten tattoos by people I did not connect with or match with at all. Now, if you're getting one tattoo, that doesn't really matter. But if you're planning on getting bigger pieces or coming back and like doing tattoos more regularly, I think it makes a lot of sense to know one or several tattoo artists that you actually like and that likes you. It also means that you can talk about the motif in a way with someone who sort of gets you and understands where you're coming from and your aesthetic, so you don't have to think of everything and like spill everything out for them, because that can be draining and also difficult when you're not a tattoo artist and you don't know about the possibilities and what you can do, etc. I have 2 tattoo artists that I absolutely love to death, and I have a few more that I use on and off, but yeah, again, long break, hello. But the 2 artists that has done most on my body at this point, at least most of the quality work on my body at this point, I have had a personal connection with them where I really like them as human beings, and I also really like their style prior to getting tattooed by them. If you have a certain preference or aesthetic, find a tattoo artist that sort of matches that. Don't go to someone who specializes in realism and ask for old school. In terms of motifs, sometimes I draw things up myself and I want it exactly the way I drew it. Other times I show up with a vibe and an idea. That was actually the case with the homage to my grandmother. I just said, kind of want some old school elements, but like, you do you, you know what works, and you have done this before, you know what's gonna look good. So the ball's in your court, baby. Whenever I post that you can ask me questions about my tattoos, I often get questions sort of like, is that a, because I have a lot of pop culture references on my legs, and I got a question about whether or not what I have in my leg is a TARDIS from Doctor Who. Yes, it is. I also have a shitty Darth Vader. I have a Bulbasaur tattoo on my knee. I have Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. What else? I have Morty from Rick and Morty before the fan base went completely off the rails. Like season 1 and 2 are just so solid. I have like the most niche Harry Potter reference, that's not the Deathly Hallows, on my arm, but I have the Burning Cabinet on my leg as well. If you know where the Burning Cabinet is from, comment down below. But if you want to see a run through of some of my previous tattoos from previous years, I'll leave the playlist down below. I have run throughs of the tattoos I got from 2019 and going forward. So give those a watch if you're interested. And other than that, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I have more exciting things to share with you next year. Maybe I'll get back into it. I'll let you guys know. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments and let me know which one of the tattoos I showed you was your favorite. Judge me, please. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day and take really good care of yourselves. Until next time. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!